Friends, in just a few moments, we are going to begin the funeral services for Mr. Ira R. Kaufman. If you have a cell phone or a pager, I would ask for you to please take a moment to turn it off or place it in the silent mode. Again, you've still got another few moments to kibitz. We would ask just to keep the volume down for a few more moments. If there isn't a seat for you in this space, I think there's still a little bit more room toward the front. We do have the other chapel across the lobby that's available for people to see and hear the service as it goes on. Friends, at this time we are going to begin the funeral for Mr. Ira R. Kaufman. Again, just as a final gentle reminder, if you have a cell phone or pager, please do turn it off or make sure it's in the silent mode. And officiating today's services will be Rabbi Yerachmiel Pickles.
מזמור לדוד, אדוני מי יגור בעליך, מי ישכון בהר קודשך, הולך תמים ופועל צדק, ודובר אמס בלבבו, לא רגל על לשונו, לא עשה לרעהו רעה, וחרפה לא נשא על קרבו. נבזה בעיניו נמאס, ואת יראי אדוני יכבד, נשבע להרע ולא ימיר, כספו לא נשן בנשך, ולשוחד על נקי לא לקח, עושה אלה לא ימות לעולם. Song of David, Hashem, who may sojourn in your tent, who may dwell on your holy mountain. One who walks in purity, does what is righteous, and speaks the truth from the heart. Who has no slander on the tongue, nor has done harm to a fellow, nor cast disgrace towards a neighbor. In whose eyes a contemptible person is repulsive, but who honors those who are in awe of Hashem. Who swears truthfully, even to personal hurt, and never retracts, who does not lend money on interest, nor takes a bribe against the innocent. One who does these things shall never falter. Here to pay our final respects to Yitzchak Ruvain ben Chaim Halevi, Ira Kaufman. Ira was survived by his children, Michael and Molly, Benjamin and Malia. He was a Zaidi to Corey, Cameron, Dalen, a dear friend to Rana Wolf, a relative to many, and a friend to all of us. I had a privilege of knowing Ira for almost 20 years. He was a very, very special person. God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh day. And everything that he created was perfect as it was created. The earth, the seas, the land, the trees, the grass, the sun, the moon, the stars, the constellations, they were all perfect. The animals were perfect, the birds and the fish, the mammals. But then came his final creation, Adam, a human being. But that creation was only perfect to a certain extent. He told Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve, that put you in the Garden of Eden, and you need la'avda u'lishamra, to work it and to guard it. Does not mean to work the land. It means to work on yourself and to perfect yourself. And you have a lifetime, some longer, some shorter, to perfect yourself, to be a better person, to be committed to the Torah's ways, and to be committed to being a good person, a refined person, to work on one's midos, on one's character traits. And one has an entire lifetime to do that. And Ira Kaufman did that. Ira was a kind person. He was a warm person. I never heard one negative word from Ira. Ira had this unique way, the Chafetz Chaim wrote a whole book about Shmiras HaLashon, about speaking properly and not saying something negative about other people. When there was that opportunity that somebody else might say something negative, Ira had this way of using his hands. He would go like this, and he would speak with his hands, with his body language, to say, I'm not going there. I'm not going to lower myself to what another person may say. I'll give us what we call a zug. I'll give a line. Ira Kaufman's not going to do that. He'll just leave it like that. When I think about Ira, the main words that come to mind are a class act. He was a classy person. He was a dignified person, and he walked with dignity. He carried himself with this nobility. I never saw him in a t-shirt. I never saw him wear jeans. He was always with a freshly starched button-down shirt, sometimes tie, sometimes not, sometimes jacket, sometimes not, dress pants, dress shoes, and it wasn't only because I most often saw him in shul. When I saw him other places, that's the way he presented, because he was dignified. This week's Parsha is also it's so appropriate for Ira Kaufman. Unbelievable. Parshas Tetzaveh, this week's Torah portion, we're going to read about the Big Day Kahuna, the vestments that the Kohanim, who served in the temple in the Beis HaMikdash, that they had to wear these certain garments as they performed the service. And the pasuk, the verse tells us that the begadim were lechavod uletifares. They were for an honor and for glory. The commentators say they're not to honor the people who are doing the service. They are honor for the service which the people are doing. He saw himself, his clothes, the way he dressed wasn't about him. It's about what he did and how he acted, how he conducted himself in his business, and he would discuss things, certain moral questions. What should I do? What should I not do in the way I interact with clients in business? He acted with integrity. He was honest. It was lechavod ultifares, for what he did and how he did it. And he was a very dedicated person. And he was very dedicated to his wife, Karen. And especially with her illness in the last years, I remember seeing them in Jewel, and I remember how he talked about whatever she was struggling through, his dedication for her through all the years was incredible. He was an example of how a husband should treat his wife. And he cared about other people. He always asked me how my family's doing, how my boys are doing, and he took pride in other people, in their accomplishments and in their achievements. But most of all, he took pride in his kids, in his two boys. He was proud of them, and he radiated, he exuded this pride as he walked around. He talked about their accomplishments and how proud he and Karen were of both of them. It was very funny. He had this sophisticated form of humor that you had to think through. He was a very special person, and we're going to miss him dearly. I just want to conclude. Ira was a person of integrity, and he stood by traditional values. And when we eulogize, the Gemara has a dispute. What's the point of the eulogy? Is it for the yikare of the chaye or the yikare of the mace? Is it for the honor of those who are living, or is it for the honor of the deceased? And the answer is both. And we understand what the honor of the deceased is. We're going to talk about all his virtues and all the good things that the person did. But what is the honor of those who are living? It's that when we're able to take the messages of how he lived his life, the good things that he did in his life, and apply them to our lives, and to carry him with us and those things that he stood for, that is our honor as well as his. And we live in a time where certain values have changed in the world, where Ira's understanding of what a family is and what a home is and what the relationship between a husband and a wife and parents and children, when those have come into question, we should think about Ira and the values that he has and what he stood for and what he would say as we think about the decisions that we make in our life. And that would be an honor to us. It would be an honor to him, and mostly an honor to Hashem. Yehi Zichro Baruch. May his memory be for blessing. I'm now going to call, just in this order, Wayne Lerner, a friend, then Avi Kaufman, nephew, and then Benjamin and Michael Kaufman, his sons.
Thank you, Rabbi. Michael, Molly, Benjamin, Malia, Rana, my heart goes out to all of you. The last several months, the last year or two, have been a difficult journey. And you've been amazing in trying to support Dad, support Ira, as he's gone through this journey. All of his friends and family have done that. And what Ira has gone through, no one should have to go through. But he did it with honor, and he did it with pride, and he did it with knowing that he had a challenge in front of him, but he knew that he had the support of everybody who was here. Thank you for the honor of asking me to speak today. But I speak on behalf of a gang of people who grew up on the west side with Ira. And Rabbi, with respect, I've known Ira for 65 years. So those of you who thought this was going to be a short service, sit tight. I'm not even sure where to start. We were good friends, Jim and Jerry and Ira and me. And then later, as high school years, our friend Sal Green emigrated from New York and came to the west side and became part of the gang. We were part of a Jewish youth group called the AZA. I'm not even sure if AZA is still around anymore. But Jerry's father, Mr. Berman, was our leader. And we'd get together every Tuesday night and be involved in various sports activities and cultural activities and religious activities. And Ira was always one of the people who was at the forefront of all of that. See, he had a tremendous opportunity to lead. He also had a tremendous love for basketball, and he passed that love of basketball to his boys. I should mention, and this is specifically for Molly, he had a love of the White Sox. Now, Michael, as you may know, intermarried, married a Cub fan, but we won't talk about that. But one of our greatest joys was being at the 2005 opening day World Series game for the White Sox. And most of us cried that day. Cried because it was a special day, but also because we couldn't believe that in our lifetimes we would have that honor on the south side of Chicago. But I have like 4,000 stories, and so does Jim, and so does Jerry. And maybe later today, if you're interested, we will hear them. But let me just tell a couple, because I know we have to move along. See, I believe in karma, or besheret, or fate, or kismet. And I believe that we're connected. I also believe that the body is simply a shell, and that the spirit has long gone. But I believe that Ira's spirit is here with us today, so I'm going to be careful what I say. See, I believe that we are connected. And we all hung at each other's houses when we were young. I knew Mr. and Mrs. Kaufman as well as I knew my parents. I knew Bert, and I knew how much Ira idolized Bert as his older brother. I knew how much Ira felt, how strongly he felt about his own kids, how dedicated he was to Karen, especially as she went through her travails, and how proud he was of his nieces and nephews who are here today. He was certainly a family man, but he was a friend, and he was a good friend. And he hung at our houses. He was close to my mom and dad and my grandfather and grandmother, who were young and were part of our family. See, long before there was the Double K compound in South Haven, the Kaufman-Karmazin or Karmazin-Kaufman compound, some of us used to go up to South Haven for a couple of weeks in the summer. And Ira would go up with me, certainly before Shabbat. And my grandfather, who had a number of prior lives, one of which was to be a cab driver in Chicago, would drive this humongous Cadillac on the way up the Skyway over to Highway 31 to South Haven. But the thing was, my grandfather was impatient. So he would pick Ira and me up on the west side. And then we would sit in the old bench seats, if you remember those. It was Gramps, me, and then Ira. Ira would always have the window. And my grandfather had a knack for driving on the Skyway, but not in the lanes. He would drive the fire lane, the emergency lane. And all I can remember is Ira looking over the window, over the bridge, down at the water, screaming at my grandfather that he was going to perish that day, and my grandfather just laughing hysterically. And this one particular trip to South Haven, and actually it happened on Shabbat, on Saturday morning, Ira fell and hurt himself and was bleeding profusely. Now, Ira was very close to my family, but very close to my mother's younger sister, my Aunt Sissy, who unfortunately died very young. And Aunt Sissy was a Vilda Chaya. She was a crazy woman. She was a lot of fun. And she took a particular love for Ira. Well, Ira is bleeding all over the place, and we have to do something about that. But it's Shabbat. And my man says to him, get in the car, we're going to the hospital, we're going to the ER. And Ira, of course, says, as a good observant young man, I can't drive on the Shabbat. I have to walk. And my aunt says, well, it's like 7 miles, you can't get there. She throws him in the car, and with the following words, she says to him, I'm sure God will understand, right? And so he goes to the hospital, he gets treated, comes out. He was okay as a result of that. Now, the irony in all of this is the connectedness that we have to one another. Ira was born on January 6th. My aunt, with whom he was very close, died on January 6th. My grandfather, with whom he was very close, died the same day that Ira died. So there's a spiritual connection that will go on forever between his family and mine. One more thing. As I've retired, I've gotten into writing fiction, short stories. My current short story has as its star Mr. Kaufman and the Boys from the West Side, and I'm currently working on that. I finished with the following story. Summer of 1968, just before the Democratic National Convention, for those of you who've read history books. We are at a place on Harrison and Racine called the Brown Jug, or the Brown Bottle, which is now where Tuscany is. Ira and I had gone down to Grant Park on Sunday night to see what preparations were being made for the Democratic National Convention. We came back and had some dinner. We're sitting next to some good Chicago cops who were talking about how they couldn't wait to put on their riot gear and get at the troublemakers in Grant Park. I turned to Ira and I said, okay, I'm going to have my first cigarette. See, Ira used to smoke back in those days. Well, we all did. And I had my first cigarette. As we got up to leave, a song started to play, which I think is appropriate today. It was released 3 months earlier in March of '68. The words go like this. Old friends, can you imagine us years from today, sharing a park bench quietly? How terribly strange to be 70. Time it was, and what a time it was. It was a time of innocence, a time of confidences. Long ago it must be, I have a photograph. Preserve your memories, they're all that's left you. Michael, Benjamin, Malia, Molly, tell the little ones stories. Tell the little ones about the legend of Ira, because by telling stories, Ira will live forever. God bless you, Ira.
With permission of Rabbanim, Michael and Benjamin, and most of all, Yitzhak Ruvain ben Chaim Halevi. When the Bible speaks about the death of Sarah, a pasuk, a sentence says, "V'yovo Avraham lispod l'Sarah o lechosa." Abraham came to eulogize Sarah and to bewail her. The commentary explains that when Abraham was eulogizing Sarah, he wanted to speak about her special qualities. So he relayed the story of Akedas Yitzchak, when Isaac went willingly and at peace to be sacrificed for God. For the fact that Sarah reared a son who was so devoted and so dedicated and committed to God was proof of her greatness. You, Michael and Benjamin, who are role models for the community, you are proof of Ira's greatness. This ability to be role models is summed up by the Talmud, which is part of the oral law of Torah. It says, Maseh avot simcha lebanim. The actions of our fathers are examples for the sons, meaning the generations that follow. Ira received his great traits from his father and passed them on to you. He was humble, firm in his principles of honesty, integrity, accountability, kindness, devotion to Judaism, devotion to his family, an active member of his synagogue and community. He never let outside influences sway him or change him. We used to often speak about how to apply Jewish laws and customs to everyday life. In his involvement with the synagogue, he ensured that it stayed solvent, fulfilled its mission for the members of the synagogue and the broader Jewish community of Buffalo Grove. He came as often as possible to my family's birthdays, events, and celebrations. He'd always watch out for us, giving my wife Orit and I and my children wise guidance on life. He was always encouraging my kids and joking around with them. And this is just the tiniest tip of who Ira was. I see these traits in you, Michael and Benjamin, and it shows with the great respect and admiration people have for you, and a number of people drawn to you that we see here today. It is brought down in the Talmud that the spirit of the deceased hovers over them until burial, and connected to this is the custom to ask for forgiveness from the deceased. Yitzhak Ruvain ben Chaim Alevi, on behalf of my wife and I and my children, I beg for your forgiveness. For any time that I might have said the wrong thing, did not ask about or try to help your needs, what was going on in your life, and didn't thank you enough for all that you did for us. Please, please forgive me and my family. We will always try to follow your example. This is a tremendous loss that cannot be described in words. But know that you and Michael and Benjamin have in your DNA to rise up from this. It says in the Bible, in the same section that speaks of Sarah's death, Yokam Avraham mi'al pinay meso. Abraham rose up from the presence of his dead. The commentaries explain that from this, when a great loss happens, one can be doubled over from the weight of the loss and be overcome with despair. The Bible says that Abraham rose up. He stood up firmly. He was brave and courageous and came back after a time to interact with life. This is part of your DNA as inheritance from Abraham. Michael and Benjamin know within you is the ability to rise and after a time to live by the traits of your father and continue the greatness he instilled in you.
I'm gonna look down mostly. My family and I greatly appreciate the kind words spoken today by Rabbi Pickholtz, Wayne, and Avi. Messages and calls that we have received along with the presence here today of such close family and friends we love. We feel loved and supported. Over 11 years ago, I spoke in the same building. get through this, so just bear with me. And thank my father for showing my brother and I exactly how a loved one is to be taken care of. Michael. Michael, you took those lessons and were there for Dad every step of the way. And Molly, it has meant the world having you by Michael's side. I love you both. Rana, the last 6 years of companionship meant everything to my father, and the last 6 months of support you have provided means everything to our family. You are truly a blessing, and my dad truly was a 2-time lottery winner. While my dad may be gone, you will always be part of our family. Dad. Dad, thank you. You were always there for me, celebrating accomplishments and comforting me in times of need. And I promise to make you proud and always be there the same way for Malia. For Malia, Cameron, and Dalen. I want to thank you for the many things that you taught me. You showed me how to treat friends and loved ones. You were so thoughtful, always reaching out to others on holidays, special occasions, and just checking in. You taught me the importance of traditions and be strong in my convictions. And one of the most important lessons you taught me, and especially your granddaughter Cameron already, was who the best baseball team in Chicago is. Just ask Cameron, she will tell you, it's the White Sox. And for those who don't agree, there's no food at the Shiva for you. Dad, I want to thank you for the many joyous occasions we shared. You were my first basketball coach, which included two Buffalo Grove Park District championships. We attended countless White Sox games together, including a World Series win, and you even took me out of school to attend the Bulls' first three-peat celebration in Grant Park. I always felt special. Dad, thank you for never missing a sporting event of mine. I will always remember how excited you were to watch me play and coach. I will always remember spending our summers on the beach in South Haven. I'd give anything to watch you light off some fireworks for another 4th of July. And I'll always remember how every milestone was celebrated with a cigar and a great conversation. Dad, it is through everyone in this room that you are not gone. You will never be gone. You were with me, you were with Michael, and you were with Rana. You were part of each of your grandchildren, your entire extended family, and all your friends. Because you understood that what truly matters in life is the relationships you develop and the lives you touch. And because of that, your story continues on. I've been given a lot of good advice lately. I've been told to take these memories and some time for myself to smile and cry. While this does help, it doesn't seem completely to completely fill the void. The void knowing that I will never be able to see your face again and never be able to get your advice or see you cherish milestones and celebrations of all your grandkids. You were taken too soon, but I wouldn't change a single moment we shared. If heaven is anything close to what it has been like having you as a father, then I smile knowing that you are there right now. Excuse me. I smile knowing that you are there right now in a better place. Please hug Mom for me. As you would always say to Mom, Michael, and I love you, I've always loved you, and I will always love you. Probably keep this on so you can't see the ugliness, but there it goes. None of us communicated on what we were going to say, but a lot of it's going to be similar. All right, here we go. Much better at talking to teenagers. I'm not even good at that. Let's see how fast I can do this. All right. I have a list of the 4 worst places in the world, the DMV, Walmart, hospitals, and funeral homes and cemeteries. So I hate this place, and I'm sorry that this is going to be a little ugly today. I want to start off by thanking the rabbis and Wayne and Avi, and especially Benjamin, Malia, and Molly and Rana. I love you. And everyone here today, and everyone who is streaming in, thank you. There are many other people to thank individually for all they've done and all they mean to you, Dad, and to us, but that will be done one-on-one. Dad, everyone here with us today is surprised that this happened, but not surprised that they didn't know. Just about everyone I spoke to said something to the effect of, "Yep, that's Ira," or "Doesn't surprise me he didn't want anyone to know or be bothered. He could be so or such a..." And Dad, they're all right. They all know you well, which in itself says a lot about you. So many people know you well. For all your quirks, we'll call them quirks, that a lot of people commented on, every single person also had nothing but positive attributes and stories to say and share about you as well. That says more than anything. As we sat down with the rabbi and talked about you, it was stated that Benjamin and I knew of your quirks more than anyone, and to us they were more glaring and constant. Me personally, I hated them. They annoyed and frustrated me a lot, but that's probably because I have a lot of those same qualities. Sorry, Molly. But not really, because I know that both Benjamin and I have all your amazing qualities as well. And those shine brighter than the smile Mom has on her face right now. Being with you. You were a man of few words, but what you said was meaningful and purposeful. You didn't waste words, and when you spoke, people listened, even if most of your words had 4 or less letters in them. It's where I got my vocabulary, and I'm sure Corey will get hers. You stood up for what you believed to be right, and you fought for it, and probably spent too much time fixated on it, but you were a fighter. You were loving, not always outward and showing, but you loved and cared for everyone. That is evident in how you always called or messaged people on their birthdays, giving of special little significant and meaningful gifts, or how you made sure that at a burial you wouldn't leave until all the dirt was used and that burial was done right as respect to the deceased, because they couldn't do it on their own. You were devoted. In the Jewish religion, in the White Sox, which is religion, in work, as you were still working just days ago, in your family and being there for us all the time, no matter what, in Michigan, no better place in the world, in making sure others were happy and taken care of, and known that in your little way, that they were special too, like your treats, especially licorice on the beach. You taught me what it means to be part of a family, the compassion you exuded, and the sacrifices you made when you took care of your parents, your brother Bert, and especially how you fought for Mom and did everything you could. Taught Benjamin and I how to love, how to fight, and what it means to be a family. Lamaze classes are coming in. Oh, just breathe. Ready to catch me? I learned how to be a father from you, Dad. How to be fully invested in your children. You always watched Benjamin coach no matter where he was or what time his game was. You were a part of my coaching career, keeping the scorebook at every away game, even riding the bus with a high school girls basketball team. You were always in your seat, very specific seat that you kicked the kids out of, at every home game in the front row, right across my team's bench. I'd like to think that was so you could watch me coach, but I'm pretty sure it was so you can yell at the refs and I can hear it. Even this year, when you couldn't make it to games, you texted me right after each game, asking the score, and keeping our wins and losses on a paper copy of our schedule. You were a giver. You always gave to charity, whether in the tzedakah box, the walks we did for different causes, or the money you made from doing the scorebook that you donated to charities. You were a giver of your heart and your home to me multiple times. Lived with you a lot. Not in the basement, though. I got to live at home a lot, but especially to Molly as you opened your home and heart to us to live with you while we were saving to buy a house. It couldn't have been easy to share your space with us, especially because you like to put piles of stuff everywhere, and Molly, and more specifically me, we have a lot of things. But you did it without hesitation, without complaint. We were beyond fortunate to spend that time with you. It was great watching you and Molly grow closer, even though she's a Cubs fan. Dad, I'm still working on that, and don't you worry about Corey. She knows what's right. White Sox, go White Sox. That'll be her first game. Dad, I could depend on you for anything. My voice still cracks. Always. And now I can't. But you best believe that all your current and one day any future grandkids can depend. Nothing's there. Can depend on their fathers because Zadie taught us how. Your legacy will be passed down for generations to come. Dad, you were the best role model we could have asked for all the reasons above and many more. There's so much more I can say, but all of that will be just for you and me. Thank you. Just going to finish with something that Corey wanted me to share with her, Zadie. This is taken from a children's book that many of you might know. This book sucks. Oh, God, I hate this book. Some of you already know. Corey says to you, Zadie, I will love you forever. I will like you for always. Long as she's living, or Zadie, you'll be. Dad, I always loved you. I do love you, and I will always love you.
Ashrei hu ish asher lo halach b'atzas v'sham u'v'derech hatam lo omad v'moshav leitzim lo yoshuv ki im b'soras Adonai chefzo u'sorasa yegu yomam v'loylo v'yo ke'et shasula pal gemoyim asher piryo yitem be'ito v'aleyu lo yibo v'chol asher yasa yatzliach lo yichein harisham ki im kamoitz asher titvenu ruach al kein lo yukumu risham v'amishpat v'chatam ba'adas tzadikim ki yodea Adonai derech tzadikim v'derech rishayim toiveid. Happy is the one who has not followed the counsel of the wicked, nor stood in the path of sinners, nor sat in the company of the scornful. Rather, that one's delight is in the Torah of the Lord, meditating in God's Torah day and night, and will be like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in season, whose leaf will not wither, and whatever that one does prospers. Not so the wicked, who are like the shaft that the wind drives away. Therefore the wicked shall not survive judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord loves the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked is doomed.
Please rise. Do we say the Kilmully? El Molei Rachamim Shochein Bamromim המצא מנוחה נכונה על כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים. אס נשמס יצחק ובן בן חיים הלוי, שהלך לעולמו, בעבור שאנחנו מתפללים בעד אזכרס נשמסו, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתו. לכן בעל הרחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר אמן. Please be seated.
Friends, this concludes the services here at the chapel. The interment and burial service will continue at Shalom Memorial Park in Arlington Heights. For those of you traveling with us to the cemetery and the funeral procession, please do keep the following safety precautions in mind. Please make sure that your bright headlights and your four-way hazard flashers are on at all times. Please be sure to obtain an orange funeral safety sticker for your windshield, and we will be providing several of the cars throughout the procession, but not every car in the procession, with a magnetic orange flag to be placed on top of your car. Please travel as close as safety permits to the car in front of you to avoid any gaps in our procession. For your own safety and security, I would suggest not speaking or texting while driving to the cemetery and the funeral procession. Also, as we make our way through the intersections, if the car in front of you goes through the intersection, even if the traffic signal changes color, please proceed with caution. Feel free to use your horn liberally and make every effort to keep our procession together as we go from here to the cemetery. Following the interment, the family will be together at the Kaufman residence at 305 Lakeview Drive in Buffalo Grove. Today, upon their return until 9 p.m., Wednesday and Thursday from 6 until 9 p.m., Saturday from 7 until 9 p.m., Sunday from 12 till 4, and resuming again from 6 until 9, and Monday from 1 until 4 p.m. That information, as well as the information regarding memorial contributions to the Bay Shul, is available in the service folder that you should have received when you came in. If you did not receive one, we do have those for you as you leave. For those of you joining us online, all of that information is also available on our website. And just as a reminder, the Kaufman residence is a kosher home. At this time, I would ask for those of you who've been asked by the family to serve as pallbearers, if you'll please come forward to my left, and for everyone else to please rise and stand in place as we escort the rabbi, the family, and the casket from the chapel. Thank you, and you may return to your time.